Good morning or evening or afternoon. It is evening-ish for me. My name is Lily and welcome to the Ladybug Laboratory podcast. I'll be your host for today. Today is Monday, May 15th that I am recording. Ideally, this will go up on the 17th or the 18th, which will be a Wednesday or a Thursday. Today we've got some finished objects as well as a question from a viewer and a little bit of discussion about some other crafty goodness. It's going to be pretty short and sweet today. There's been a lot going on recently, so I don't have very much to show you. You can find me in all the places that are all written down there. There is a Ravelry group where you can post questions, or there's an introductions thread. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and that's also where all of the show notes will be. There is a make-along going on right now, which is the Made For Me make-along. The idea is that you are making something for yourself. It's not necessarily selfish, but because I don't like the word selfish, but it's for you. There are prizes for both the chatter thread and the finished objects thread, and right now there are 2 people that have not claimed their prizes, and assuming that neither one of them claims a prize by the time this goes live, I'll put the names down here in case one of them claims their prize. But yeah, so yeah, go ahead in the chatter thread, the finished objects thread. I am super fascinated because there's somebody in the chatter thread who is planning to hand knit the top of a raglan sweater and then machine knit the body of it, and I need to know how this is done. So, stay tuned. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead. So FOs today, finished objects. I have 3, only one of which you've seen before. So we're going to start with that one. So I finished, make sure this is focusing, my tonal socks. And these are from the Tony pattern, which is a free pattern on Ravelry by Kaua Coffee or something like that. And it's modeled after Tony from West Side Story. I can't really tell if these are focusing, so I hope they are. I made these for my husband, and I used US 1.5, which is a 2.5 millimeter. I used Knit Picks Stroll Brights in the Hot Tamale colorway. So this is what the patterning looks like just on the front of the foot. It's got this sort of, it's almost like a slanted checker. It goes like this down the foot. So it slants one way and then the other. I really like it. I finished the both of them. And if you'll notice, there are these 2 tea bags here. These are both Progress Keepers from Lovebird Lane's Yarns and Gifts, which is by Julianne of the My Muddlings podcast. So there are 2 tea bags. Ooh, there you go, 2 tea bags. And they're both adorable. They have little faces on them. So cute. But I did not do these 2 at a time. Those of you who are returning viewers will know that what happened is I knit the sock, and this is just purls and knits, so it was a good sort of on-the-go project. I knit the sock down to about here. I'm sorry. I don't even remember which one I did first, but I knit it to about here, and then I was going to be out all day, and I needed a to-go project, and I knew that this was going to, I had to have my husband's foot with me to know where to end it. So what I did is I put whichever one it was on scrap. Nope, let's try again. Whichever one I did first, I put on a pair of spare needles, and then I cast on the other one, and I did the same thing, and I ended up in a situation where both of them were at about the same place, and I hadn't finished either of them, and both of them at this point I needed to wait and do them at home because they weren't on the go projects anymore. So they sat there for about 3 weeks. Because of course they did, right? But I cast them off, I finished them up, and I waited until a day when I was going to be working all day, hanging out with friends. We were playing a game together, D&D. It was a D&D session, but a particular D&D session when my husband was going to be there, so I could make him try one on. And I finished them. Yay! I'm happy with them. These are going to go into the Christmas gift stash, because new viewers among you won't know this, but everybody else will. Really the only thing that my husband likes to get as a gift is socks. So, yeah. And my next finished object after that, these next two you have not seen before. And they're both part of a surprise that I don't want to show you yet. And I'll talk about that more in Works in Progress. But you'll be able to pick up enough of it. So this is the first one. And it is a little square, it's about 5 inches by 5 inches, that I did with the same yarn that I had used for my plum sweater cardigan. And I used the other set. I got 2 different sets of buttons and I couldn't decide which one, so I used the other one. And it's a functional little pocket. So I really have no idea if you can see this. I hope you can. But it opens up, you can put stuff inside. It's about 5 inches by 5 inches. There's the back. So I'm pretty happy with it. I did it on US 7s. It took me a couple of hours, actually. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say about that one. I kind of made it up off the top of my head. I knit the back piece, and then I knit this one, and what I did is I cast on a certain number, and then at the end of every other row, I picked up a stitch from like inside of the back piece. And then I did the same thing over here, and then I seamed across the tops, holding them down. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. It was a quick knit, and it was kind of fun to make because it's a unique construction, a unique item that don't really have a lot. That's not something that's particularly common. So this next finished object is another 5 by 5 inch square. And this was a mini that I got from Carolyn of The Next Beautiful Thing, this peach in the background. And the blue was also a mini, but I don't remember where I got that from. And this is the crest that a friend of mine made for our Stitch and Bitch group. And so I sort of embroidered that into, let's see, there we go. I sort of embroidered it into the square. Yeah, I'm really, really happy with it. So I have a new setup today. Normally I have to go like this to see whether or not it's focusing, but today I have to go like this and it keeps messing me up. But yeah, I'm really happy with this. This one didn't take too terribly long. I think I just used 1.5's 2.5 millimeters for the background, and then the crest I printed it out, and then I cut out the outside and I drew and I embroidered over that, and then I cut the next line in and I drew and I embroidered over that, etc. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. And in case you haven't figured it out yet, those 5-inch squares are combined together, but you'll hear about that a little bit more in Works in Progress, which will be on the next episode. Those are all of my finished objects. That's all I've got for you today. So we're going to move on. I'm going to do a little bit of non-yarn crafting, and then a question from a viewer. So I have been doing cross stitch, which some of you may know if you've been watching for a while, but many of you probably don't. I do cross stitch, and I have a cross stitch that has been sort of on hold for probably about 6 months, and I picked it back up again the other day, and I've been really enjoying it. I'm getting pretty close to finishing it off. So this is my winter cross stitch. Let's see. It says winter, it's got these leaves, and what I've been working on is this really tiny over 1 pattern on the bottom. This canvas is 18 holes per inch, and normally you'd work over 2, which would give you 9 stitches per inch, but this is an over 1 scene, so there are literally 18 stitches per inch. And up until recently, I just had, see, look, that's my finger, that's my thumb. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Up until recently, I had these 2 trees done, and since then I've done the body of a woman with a cape and a dress, and this is the start of the body of a man, and I will be finishing off the feet. They're ice skating, and then there's some trees over here, there's one more tree here, and I have to do their faces still. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that's coming along, and I've been enjoying getting back into it. Anything else to say about that? The designer is Teresa Wensler, and I have already done her summer and autumn patterns, and after this all I have left to do is spring. So yeah, that was quick. So now we're going to talk about questions, and this week I have one question, and this is from Rachel Ravenclaw, who is Rachel of the Crafty Historian podcast. So hi Rachel, I love your podcast. If you haven't seen Rachel, by the way, you should go check her out because she is brilliant and she has a great style and a great sense of humor, and I love just getting to watch what she's doing every day, and she often brings in a little something about history, which I really appreciate. I like it. I like history in general, and I like the topics and exploring what parts of how history and culture and archaeology and all of that and geography and how that goes together. And on top of that, I love it when podcasters have something special that they do, even though I don't, but whatever. So yeah, go check out Rachel. But she asks, "Hi Lily, I'm looking for a little bit of advice. As you may be aware, I'm a university student, and this means that I don't have a lot of funds available for yarn. My question is, how would you suggest keeping things interesting when often I've only got about 23 grams to play with? I like doing a variety of projects, and sometimes I feel a bit limited. Equally, if you have any recommendations for projects that take up tiny amounts of yarn, that would be great." So, Rachel, I do have a couple of things for you. So first of all, I often run across some pattern on Ravelry that, sorry, I'm pulling this up on my computer, that requires a small amount of yarn. And what I've done is, if you go to my favorites, I have a bundle of favorites. Let me find it. That's called Scrap. Okay. And it's just every time I see, I don't know if this is going to work, but we can try. Oof. That's better-ish. Every time I see a project that requires only a small amount of yarn, I will add it. So let me see if I can zoom in. So I have different types of scrap blankets, tiny socks for babies. As you go down, I've got like a little gift bag and a bookmark and a headband. I have these little leaves. So I encourage you to do that just anytime you come across something that requires only a small amount of yarn. Just add it to your favorites or something like that, like these tiny sweaters. I don't know if you can even see that. Leaves. They're very cute. This one is adorable. It's a tiny cat and tiny candy. I have no idea how much of this you can actually see. See, I can't hold it any closer. But yeah, I encourage you to go ahead and check out, I'll link to that bundle in my notes. But yeah, there's lots of really adorable things that you can do with only a few grams, particularly of sock yarn. But I do have one more suggestion, which is a lot of the times when you're looking at a pattern, it will say that, it requires a large amount of a certain kind of yarn. And let's take fingering, for instance, because we all end up with 30-ish gram sections of fingering weight yarn. So I'm just scrolling through my favorites right now. Give me a second. Okay, so this one, for instance, this pattern is called Queen of the Underworld, and it's by Magdalena Lorenz. And this is a shawl. And you know what? I'm going to put a better picture in right here. So this shawl, I don't know how well you can see it from the picture that should be up right now, but it's got a purple main color, and then it has these white sections across the sort of as accents throughout it. Well, one thing that you could do is you could get a purple main color or something to be the purple. And then each of those sections across the shawl could be a different colored scrap that you have. And if you only have 20 or 30 grams of it, you could use that. That's something that I really like doing. If I find that I have a whole bunch of yarns that sort of are in the same palette and go together, I will get one neutral that works with all of them. And then I'll find a pattern like this and add those scraps in for bits of it. Let me see if I can find another example for you. There are also just a lot of things that you can do that are single color shawls or patterns or whatever that you can do with multiple colors. So Waiting for Rain, for instance, is a single color shawl, but I'm going to put a picture in here because it's not going to show up. Urban has a beautiful version of it that's 2 colors, and she just kind of, or he, I don't know, I think it's a she, based on the picture, just kind of added in the second color as she went. So there's lots of things that you can do where you can turn a 1 or 2 color project into 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever it is. I encourage you to play around with it because it can be a lot of fun. Here, I just found another one. It's called Acorns and Arches. I'm just looking in a shawl bundle right now. That's why these are all shawls. But Acorns and Arches, and when I put the picture in here, you'll be able to see that it has 2 colors, but the yellow sections, you could do each of those a different color, for instance. So there's lots and lots of different things that you can do if you don't have a lot of yarn. I know you're already doing a scrap blanket. Scrap projects are wonderful ways of dealing with that. And then if you have bigger amounts of yarn, you can make, shorty socks or fingerless mitts or something like that with these smaller amounts of yarn that you don't want to waste. I hope that helped. If you guys have any ideas for Rachel, please, please, please comment in the thread. But thanks for asking, Rachel, and I don't know if that helped you at all, but good luck. You always have the most beautiful projects, so I know you'll figure something out. Yeah, that's about it for today. I'm going to add a little bit of prattle here, just a tiny bit. Life is a little nuts, as always, that's the new norm for me. And one moment. So, there's a lot of ideas that I have for where to go next with the podcast and with my knitting career in general, and a lot of stuff has been coming up. I've got a lot of big decisions to make in terms of my life and my future. So, a lot of things are in the air. And it's not like, oh, I'm busy, I'm going nuts. Like, that's true. But really what's going on is I don't know what the future holds for me. And I have a lot of decisions to make in regards to that. Yeah, and I guess that's all I have to say about that. In the meantime, thank you for bearing with me, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!